Yeah, no idea if this thing is actually like good or not. Give me a water bottle or give me death. Yes. Bring the microphone over here, oh yeah. Got the microphone on the way. Let's get ourselves situated. And then we should be ready for this. Let's go, people. All right. No, I'm not playing a video game. This is actually from a application called gather.town. Oh, snappity snap. Host 00312. An interesting name for a bot. Hopefully you're not a bot. But it's very sus. The name host, it sounds sus as can be, so feels bad, man. Feels real bad. But hey, can I see finally? Yes. Yeah, so it looked like all those host ones, so I'm assuming that, yeah. I'm assuming Mother Pro. Let's see here. 00312. Nope, it won't let me. F. Alright, I'll have to do it elsewhere. That's okay. Anyway, so for today, like I said, I'm not playing a video game, by the way. But I should be able to do this. I will show you how to ban them. Yeah, I only know how to ban them when I'm like on the, what's it called? Like the actual dashboard thing, the view that I have. But I don't know how to do it from here, apparently. But thank you, Pseudo. Appreciate that. So like I said, I'm not playing a video game. Right? I probably shouldn't have left this as the screen I was on. Oh, I thought I made you mod. Hold on. Let's see here. Right there. There we go. Oh yeah, I kept doing the bang because, yeah, ignore the bang. That's a command you can do here. So if you're actually here in Twitch, by the way, you can do things like this, for example. So if you want to join our Discord server to continue the conversation offline, you totes my goats can. That is free. If you want to see what I'm working on for the day, then you can run this command, working on, and it should display a link. Boom, there it is. It's basically a link just to this. So that way you can see it. So nothing too crazy. But here's what we have on the docket for today. It's very, very pytest heavy today. Part of it is because there was one person asking a lot of questions. But that's okay. So the first thing we're going to do is how can I pass in CLI arguments and use them with pytest? Second one was, can you use classes to organize your tests with pytest? How do you categorize tests or classes? How do you report code coverage? And then if we have some time, hopefully at the end we will, so then I can actually explore shortcuts, API docs. And they did get me the actual like Open API spec, but it's in version 2, which means that PyClinic won't work. So that might be something we need to figure out. It seems like lots of people are still using version 2 of the Open API spec, or if it's version 2, you can also call it Swagger. So it might be a good idea for us to actually support Swagger 2 and Open API 2 in PyClinic. And now we have an example of one. So, interesting, right? Very interesting. So, okay, the reason why I was on this, by the way, is I'm currently trying it out with my team, my company. We wanted to see, we're fully remote, and we wanted to see if something like this would be useful. It looks like a Pokemon game, to be honest. But you can have a group of people inside of here, like everyone like literally hanging out. If you want to like be in private mode, like don't disturb me, then you can go to like a desk and it puts you into private mode, and no one can disturb you if that's the case. But like if you're out in a public area, if someone comes up to you and they start talking to you, like you both just come up on screen and like you can see and talk to each other. And of course you can have your camera off if you want to as well. So there's like things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. Like, so one thing that I don't like is I can see everyone here. So like even if they step away from their desk, like if I wanted to not be monitored, like this doesn't help because this actually like monitors you, right? So I'd be able to be like, oh, so Joe, you weren't in the office because you weren't logged into this thing, and so I can't see you. And so now I know when you left. And so they'd probably want to be like, okay, well, let me just put my person at a desk and then I'll just walk away from my desk. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I trust my peoples. And so I don't really need this for that. And so as long as it doesn't turn into like, it doesn't turn into something where I'm like, oh, I didn't see that person's avatar, they must not be there. Then I think it's pretty cool besides that. I could see it really useful for community events like a meetup or a workshop or a conference. I could see being really cool for that because then you could have a bunch of people in an open area and be talking to people and whatnot. Be a lot more interactive than just being on Zoom and you can't really talk to anyone. So I think there are great use cases for it, but for work, I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'll show one last thing. So let me interact with this whiteboard. And if you had like 10 people in this room, then like we'd all be right here. We'd all be watching this workspace and be able to draw on this whiteboard and stuff. So and there's some cool things to it, right? There's some pretty cool things, but like I said, I'm just trying it out. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm just gonna close it. Okay. In conferences, they use this. Yeah. So I could see it being really good for that kind of a use case. But besides that, like for work, I don't know if I like it for work. So that's what we're trying out. All right, so first things first. How can I pass in Cli Args? Wow. A wonderful, wonderful question. Let me go to... I think I have VS Code already up. I think I do. Pretty sure I do. All right, here we go. Okay, I do have it up. Okay, I'll just do this inside of the Python stream repo. Just for generic Python stuff, I'll throw it in here. So passing in arguments from the command line and then using it throughout your tests. Now, let's see. To start things off, there's a lot of different ways to design things like configs and settings. And so what I'm going to show is like just for the really simple example this person had, they just wanted to set up the environment URL. Like I have a URL. Let me make a test for this real quick just so I can start typing. So like test CLI args, we'll call it that. Then we'll make it a wee bit larger. And I know I'm going to need pytest, so let me just do this real quick. Okay. So let's say like they had like a URL, which would be like the default. The default is google.com. There's my default. But it could also be something like where you pass in some environment and now it's like uat.google.com, or you have, then I got to put my slashes there, or like stage.google.com, so on and so forth, right? So they want to be able to pass in through the command line, thank you, Copilot, which one of these they want, right? So if they don't pass anything in, it'll just use the default. If they do pass in something, then they're going to replace this or prepend or prefix the string with this. So in other words, it would be like, this is how I'm seeing the problem, right? That's how I'm seeing it. We'd want something like this. So there's your problem statement, and that's what we're going to be programming for. And again, they want to do this through the command line and affect all of the tests that you write. So, okay. So first things first, I'm going to be writing a test because that's how I roll. So let's make a test. I'm going to call this one, they want the environment URL. So let's just say test environment URL. And then I'm going to want some fixture that gets me this. And Copilot is trying its best. So yeah, let's say environment URL is equal to, and let's just do our default for now. So if I don't pass anything in, we'll get that. And then as we change things, the test will pass and fail and whatnot. We'll be able to test it out. So there's our test. If I run it right now, it should fail just because we haven't actually implemented this code yet. So there you go. Right, there is no environment URL fixture environment URL not found, which is correct. We don't have one. Okay. The next part would be we could either write the fixture inside of this file, or we could write the fixture in a more global file. Now, given the OP's request, they want to set this for all of their tests. So if that's the case, I don't want to put the fixtures inside of this file because then the fixtures would be tied only to this file. I couldn't use them in other places. So with that, we're going to use a special file in pytest that we call the conftest.py. Conftest.py, you have to call it exactly that. It is a file that pytest looks for and uses like as it's gathering your tests and whatnot, kind of building the test run. It looks for these conftest files and will then use those fixtures to set everything up and tear things down again. So conftest.py. You can see me, I'm just putting it right here, right under tests. So that means any test inside of this directory or any like descendants of this directory will use or can use this conftest file. So any fixtures are here are now global. Feels good. I'll need pytest here. I actually don't think I need pytest for this one. At first I was going to put the fixtures in here, but reading over their request, it's like, wait, they want it everywhere. So we do it in here instead. Okay. So once we have that down, you saw that I'm using the https google.com as like the default. So if I don't set anything or nothing is passed in, we'll just use that, right? So next up, we make the conftest file, get pytest going, and we need to now, they wanted something where they could say in the command line, they want to be able to say like pytest, what was it? They want to say pytest test environment is equal to like UAT. That's what they want to be able to send in. And then based off of this parameter, right, they'll get this value of UAT and then append it to that thing. So that's what they want to do. They want it to look like this. So given that, we need to actually we need to add the option to the command line. Because right now, if I try doing it in the command line, it's not going to work. So let me get this going. If I say pytest test environment, and we say this is equal to UAT, and run it, we get an error because it has no idea what this thing is, right? Unrecognized argument, test environment, UAT. This doesn't exist right now. This isn't a valid argument. So we actually need to add this option or add this argument so that way you can pass things into it. So let's do that first. And inside of the conftest file, you actually have this thing that already exists called add option. Thank you, Copilot. So smart. There you go. You have this pytest add option. It does need to be called exactly this because this is overriding a function that's already called that. And so you're kind of hooking into this and saying, I also want to add my own options to my own framework. So do know you have to call it that, but def pytest add option, and then you specify the options that you want. So let's say parser.add option, and Copilot's kind of got it. It's got the idea. So good job, Copilot. Yep, we want to call this option test environment. The action is store. We do want to store it. The default is UAT. The default I'm going to have actually is just nothing. So let's have the default be nothing. That way, otherwise, like the default would be uat.google.com, and we want the default to just be google.com. So there's no default here. And then you can also add a help, right? So this is helpful for when you do like, you know how like in a lot of command line tools, you can say pylenium -- help, or this thing, Python -- help. You can say that -- help, and it gives you like a cool looking little man file, which tells you, here's the commands you have available, and here's what each command does. That's what this help thing is for. So let's say like optional environment, if we spell things right, to test against, something like that, right? Okay. And that's really it for that. Now you can add as many of these as you want. So you might have a lot of different options or like CLI arguments that you would like to be able to pass in for various reasons. Well, following the same pattern, you can keep making as many of these options as you want, and then they all get registered and you can do it through the command line. So you can do more than just one. So there you go. So we add the option first. The next thing we need to do is actually have a function that can parse this, grab it, and then build the URL with it, right? That'd be the idea. Hey, what are you guys discussing here? PyTest fixtures? Yes, currently we are. And you can, remember, you can run this beautiful command. If you click on that link, it'll take you to a GitHub gist with the stuff I'm going to be working on for today. So make sure you check that out if you're interested in what I'm doing and what I'm going to be doing the rest of the day as well. Yes. Okay. So once we have that, like I said, we have to have a function that actually like builds the URL given some input that it receives. So I'll just do it in here for now. That's fine. I'm just gonna call it build URL because that makes sense to me. And then we're gonna have some like environment, which is a string. And then we'll set it to none by default. So if we don't receive anything, then we'll just return the default. Looks like Copilot wants to add a doc string. We won't for now, but okay. From here, we want to return. It's something close. Copilot's on the right track. So we want to return HTTPS, whatever the environment is, .google.com, but only if environment has a value. If it has a value, give me this. If it has a value, give me this. If it does not have a value, it's none, then I want to return just our default google.com. Doth make sense? It's a little big. Sorry, let me bring it all into one view here. There we go. So there you go. So that's kind of the idea, right? Pass in some environment, and it will do its darnest to build the URL with that. If you don't pass anything in, then we'll just return the default, which is our google.com with nothing in front of it. Right? So not too shabby. Not too bad. Okay. And then from there, we can now use this build URL function to get the input, parse the input. If it's valid, pass it into build URL, and then return that value. Right? Now, in my test, I called this fixture environment URL. Right? You can call this fixture whatever you want. It does not have to be called environment URL. You might want to just call it like env_URL or something like that, right? Whatever it is. Because I called it environment URL in my test, I'm going to call it environment URL in my fixture. So yes, Copilot gets it. We want this fixture to be at the session scope, and session just means the entire test run. So at the beginning of the test run, build me the environment URL, and then we can use that value and pass it into all of our tests, and they'll all target whichever environment we're aiming at. Right? That's the idea. That is the idea. So here we go. Non-test environment. This is the name of the fixture. We're going to need the request, and then yes. All right. So this is what Copilot is suggesting. It's super duper close. I mean, that's what I want, but I want it a little bit more readable though, because that's not the cleanest of syntax, if you will. So let's say the test environment is equal to request dot config.get option test environment. Yep, that's the name that we called it up here. Get this. Now this either is nothing, it's either none, or if someone actually sets it, then it will have a value, right? So here's our test environment. And then we're going to pass this in to the test env. See, so exactly what Copilot had already suggested. I just want to put it in 2 lines so it's easy to see both of them. And then yes, pass in that test environment in here. And again, once you use this, it's going to go right in here. So if this is none, give me the default. If it's not none, then append or prepend this, and we get that environment back. Very nice, very nice. And now the last thing is if we go back to our, well, let me save the file. Shoot. Save the file. Go back to our test. Let's run again, and let's see if this worked. We didn't pass in any command line arguments, which is why the test passed, right? But now we want to see the test fail because we want to add in something like UAT, for example. And when we do, the test should fail. So there's a couple different ways for us to do this now. So yes, we can do it inside of here. We can do it inside of here, and let's be a little more specific. We're going against the pytest test Cli Args. Yep. So let's go against that, and then let's set the test environment to UAT. The test should fail now. File or directory not found. Test Cli Args. What did I do wrong? Take a chance. I don't want to be inside the virtual environment. Poetry run, pytest, tests, test, Cli Args. I forgot my .py at the end. That's probably why. And then test environment. Let's set it to UAT. Okay, let's try again. There we go. So the test fails, and we can see here, this is what we had. This is the expected, and this is the actual uat.google.com. So that's why our test failed, right? So now you can see that our test framework that we've written now does accept test environment as a valid CLI arg that you can pass in. And you can see that our build URL function is adjusting the URL as expected, right? Another way, if you didn't want to just do it through the command line, because the command line is probably how you're going to do it in your CI pipelines and stuff, right? And so that's probably how you're going to do stuff. But when you're debugging, you may want to like go to a test and then like right click and debug the test, but do it against the UAT target, right? And so you can actually set things up, like let's say in your, where is it? The pytest ini file. If you don't have a pytest.ini file, you will need to create one. If you're using Pylenium, it auto-generates one, but the pytest.ini, so create this at your project root. And then in here, you'll need a pytest section. Let me close this. You'll need a pytest section. You can ignore all of this for now. This matters if you're doing report portal stuff. If you're not, don't worry about this item right now. But underneath this header, then we'll have, I want to say it's like add options, yes. Add options, and then here we can say test environment is UAT. Let's save this. Go back to our test and run this manually. And it should say the same thing. Yep, here we go. So this was what we expected, and here's the actual because we set the environment to UAT. Hold on, hello, welcome. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you set up, if you're using pytest and doing some automated testing with pytest, this is how you pass in CLI arguments and how you can handle them. Now, with that said, this is one value. This is just one URL, right? And this approach works great if all you have is one variable. But if you need to pass in like 10 different settings, then I would recommend creating a class and maybe call it settings and then put your stuff in there. So something like this, right? You may have your URL is a string, and you have your maybe environments one, maybe you have password is another one, maybe you have right? Something like that. So once you start having a lot of different settings that you want to pass in through the command line, I would highly, highly recommend using an object instead. So that way you can pass this single class around rather than passing in environment URL, password, username. You can see how this would get really gross after a while, right? You'd be passing in a bunch of stuff. So just have one class called settings or config or whatever you want to call it, and pass this object around your tests. So yes. Hold on. Wow, yes, I was just looking at add options, looking to add coverage to capture coverage for things in my test package. Yes. And Holden, just so you know, one of the topics that we're going over today is specifically what you asked. So right here, how do you report code coverage? So we'll get into that here soon. But all right, hopefully that answers y'all's questions about how you do this, passing in CLI args into your test framework. I should probably get rid of this too. This is probably really confusing, all this password stuff. Boop. Beautiful. All right, get rid of all this. There's our test. It was just a simple test. Here's our add options. Doing it through the pytest.ini file, or you can do it, hopefully you can see that, yep, or you can do it through the command line like this. Either way is how we can set that test environment. So I'm going to delete this one now just because we have it. We've seen the truth. Woo! All right. And delete that zombie. Excellent. Holden Wright asks, could you share the agenda for your stream real quick? I would like to share the stream without some... Yeah, for sure. So one thing you can do too is you can actually do this. You can run this command, that bang Discord. That'll get you access to the Discord server. If you want to know what I'm currently working on, then you can do this bang working on, and that will provide a link to this agenda that I'm showing you right here. So it's just a link to this. But yes. I try my best to update it before the stream. That way people can see what I'm going to be working on. And then some of the things that like I have coming up that I would like to work on as well. In no particular order, just like here's some other things that I might be touching. I should probably put like Rust in here too, because I'll have to do that one. So much to learn though, am I right? Holy moly, so much to learn. Okay. So the next one actually comes from Holden Riot. The second question was, can you use classes to organize your test with pytest? This is actually really good for us to go over because for anyone who's been watching my stream on the regular, you know that I don't use classes at all. Right? I just write the test function, just like you see here. I just write the test function, and that's about it. Right? And so I would have my def test something else, and here's another one, and you know what I mean? Like, I just organize it this way. And the reason why I do this is, why, hello, Matty Two Shoes. The reason I do this, do you have raids turned off? I paused because my boomerness is showing. Hold on. Let's do this all together because... Wait. I know what raids are. I've played World of Warcraft and Destiny. Come on, Carlos. Are raids the same thing on Twitch? Does it mean like a large group of people join? That sounds like what a raid is. Hold on. I'm like, what? Is this a TikTok thing? Nah, I'm just kidding. Something along those lines. Ha! Just my deducive abilities. Okay, hold on. I must have it off if you're asking. So I can do hard things. We're gonna have a party now. I know, right? If I can do this. Streaming tools. How does one... Am I able to change it while I'm streaming? Or no? Shoot, y'all. Okay. Here, let me show my... Let me show this. You're going to see like 20 of me right now. Should be in the stream manager. Okay, so I'm here. Twitter timeline. Raid channel. Oh, that's probably for me to rate someone else. Okay, in the stream manager, that's just this thing. No, not insights. Community content. I know, right? Hey, you know what? I'm trying to see if... Oh, here we go. Here we go. Wait a sec. Haha, you guys can't see my stuff. Raid and a half. Allow all raids. Only allow raids from friends, teammates, and followed channels. Oh. So that's the setting I have. Hopefully that answers your question. And if we're not friends, teammates, or followed channels, then I can't. And is allow all raids. Top one allows for discoverability. Okay, well, I'll click that one, and I'll click the save button, which is right. It looks like it doesn't matter. I think it just saves it, so okay. Well, thank you, Maddie Two Shoes. I appreciate that. Really, really do. Y'all, from boomer to zoomer, let's get it. Let's do it. By chance, are the recordings, VODs, saved so everyone can rewatch and share with others, or only subs? So Holden, great question. Wonderful, wonderful question. Right now, it's subs only. It is sub only, but I will try my darnest to grab like highlights and stuff and then throw it onto my YouTubes. So, Ian Alex Hart, thanks for the follow. You are a stud. You are a stud. I'm not going to take that back. I'm not going to take it back. Well, thank you, thank you. Alrighty, y'all. So let's move on to the next topic that we have. So we just barely finished. How can I pass Cli Args and use them with pytest? Thanks, Holden Riot, for the sub. Really appreciate it. Wow, that's loud. But thank you anyway. I appreciate it. So second item, can you use classes to organize your tests with pytest? Let's get to it. You should definitely acknowledge the raid through Mr. Boomer, though, Mr. Boomer. Oh, I had no idea that I got raided. Jay Walters raiding with the party of 7. Well, thank you. Yes, Mr. Boomer, you guys have caught me. I'm not the best at this the tickety talks, you know. Sometimes I tweet, sometimes I don't. But thank you. Welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. If you are new to the stream, then Bubble Trouble, nice. Thank you for the sub, Bubble Trouble. Really appreciate it. If you are new, my name is Carlos Kidman. I am a director of engineering at a startup. And the follow too. Bubble Trouble, welcome to the quality crew. You good-looking person. I just know. I have that like seventh sense where I can just tell via your name whether you're good-looking or not. Is it shallow? No. It's just a skill that I was born with. But anyway, so I was an engineering manager and test architect at Adobe, and then I left them to go to a startup that is purely in machine learning and artificial intelligence. See, every time I say it, I have to pause because I'm like, is it actually artificial intelligence? It's more like ML and deep learning. That's probably a better way to summarize it. But I can't currently share where I work. It's a secret. And so if you go to my LinkedIn, you will see that it says the stealth startup. And it feels bad that I have to say that. But alas, I work at this startup. And we're doing some pretty freaking awesome stuff. So if you have any questions around what? Automation engineering, testing, quality, leadership, agile, Python, like anything like that, I'm your man. I can answer. I can answer indeed. If you don't know anything else about me, it feels bad, man. But I would recommend if you can follow me on the Tweetskis. I do lots of things all over the world. I speak at conferences internationally. I'm an instructor on Test Automation University. You can just read my bio. I do lots of stuff. I like to code. I like to automate. I like software quality a lot. And I like working with people. So Yes, there it is. There it is. All right, now let me make sure. Let me make sure that I'm not booming too hard over here now. Yo, surprise, everybody, but welcome, welcome, for sure. For sure, for sure. What reading? What? Yes, here we go. Do you have an opinion on how to fungibly impact future-proof niche markets? Okay, I'm like, what the frick is a fungibly? Do I Google this? Fungibly? Am I even saying that? It looks like fungibly to me. Impact future-proof niche markets. Man, I don't even know. But all right, let's get to the second aspect. Please keep posting your questions, though, because I mean, I will answer them like my darnest. Fungibly is trending on Twitter. Oh my gosh, you make me look like a boomer every time. Yes, okay. So like I was saying before, I usually organize all of my tests not in a class. The reason for this is with a lot of the test frameworks that exist nowadays, you're able to filter tests based on a lot of different things. So for example, if we were to say poetry run just pytest, if we just hit enter here, this would run all of the tests that exist in this project, right? But you can also filter things by a folder. So inside of my test, if I decided to, let's say we have one for like unit tests, and we had a folder for our API tests, and one that was for our contract or anything like that, right? We could then use that pattern and say, instead of running all of my tests for this run, I only want to run my contract tests. Then here in the terminal, we would just say contract. Press enter, and it would execute all of the tests that exist under the contract directory. You can also do things just by the name of the file. So if you wanted to run tests on a file or in a file, then you say just the name of the file, right? Our new one would be this test Cli Args. And that would run all the tests that exist inside of here. See where I'm getting from? On top of that, if you really did need more functionality, if that wasn't organization enough for you, let's say you wanted to run tests based off of a name, right? Then you are actually able to do this. If you say -K, this can now will allow you to use like regex expressions to filter tests. So here, if I say foo, this will run only tests that contain the word foo in their name. So there's a filter. And the last one I'll show is pytest allows you to create categories. We call them marks in pytest. Other languages like C# will call it a category. So let me bring this in real quick, pytest, so we can do it. And right here we'd say @pytest.mark, and then you give it some sort of name, right? So if I say like example, now this test, if I run it with the mark of example, will only execute this test. Or it'll execute all tests that have this same mark on top of them, right? So let's see this one in action. If we say foo, this will be one test that'll pass, right? There's our one passed and two are deselected. Now let's do the same thing, but this time with the mark. So here we go, but instead of that, we'll say -m example. Run that. It should still only be one test, and it's only this one here. See, so there's so many different ways to filter which tests you want to execute that I don't like using classes, because classes just adds a lot of words. It makes it a lot more verbose to organize your things. And I just don't think it's necessary. Now, there's definitely use cases for it, so I'm not going to say it's a bad practice or anything. It's just a personal preference. If I can keep things outside of classes, I will do so, right? So, but let's turn this one into a class. And Vern asks, why -m because of mark? Yes, absolutely right. So the -m, and that Vern is talking about this right here. Let me bring it up. This -m is saying, okay, for pytest, I want to run only the tests that exist in this file, tests/testcliargs.py, with the mark of example. So we're doing like, we're compounding filters even to make a more specific filter to execute our suite. Right? So you can combine all of these things. It's very, very powerful. And so like the need for classes is just not that high. I haven't had the need for classes in all of my years now. So I'm sure there will come a time I will need it, but for now I don't. So if we were to turn it into a class, for everyone that's already familiar with pytest, all of your test functions have to start with the word test, right? Test underscore, and then call it whatever you want. That's how pytest determines if a function is a regular function or if it's a test function. So when you're doing classes, the same concept applies, right? Let's say we call this one test CLI. We have to start it with the word test. And because it's a class, we're now in Pascal case. So the beginning of every letter, or the beginning of every word, excuse me, is capitalized. All right, so test CLI. If we called it anything else without the test, CLI or CLI test, pytest would not know that this is a test class. It would see it as a regular class and ignore it. Right, so make sure that you include the word test at the beginning if you want to see it. Okay, and then you can just tab these things over. That makes it part of the class. So there's that. These are all part of the class now. The last change we have to make is in Python, when you're inside of a class, you have to use the word self. So we have to add self at the beginning of all of these, just so we know we are inside of a class for sure. All right. So let's try running some of our tests again. Let's do our example. So there's example and still the same thing again, right? So it only executed one test with this pytest mark of example. But what if I wanted to mark this whole class with one category and then say, be able to run all three of these tests with the mark of example? Well, you can also do this. So at the class level, pytest.mark.example, if you do it like this, then every test inside of the class now has the mark of example. Oh, very nice, very nice. So hopefully you can kind of see, the different ways that you can organize your tests, filter your tests, categorize your tests, all of that good stuff. D-Killer Check, where did the crowd go? They must not be Pythonistas. Or they already know this. But that's totes my goats, okay. So there you go, right? Lots of good stuff. But notice how now I'm like really indented. It adds a whole new indent, and then I have to add the word self everywhere. So it's one of those things, right? If you're really using marks to filter all your stuff, then I could see where the class becomes really valuable, because you can have one mark and have it affect all the tests within this. So if you have many classes within the same file, I could see that going. That's okay. They got scared away by tests. I know, right? They're like, oh crap, I don't want to test my own stuff. Run away. But yeah, so there you go. There you go. That's how you do it. Can you use classes to organize your tests with pytest? Yes, you can, and we showed how. How do you categorize tests or classes? We just showed that, and that's with pytest.mark. And then how do you report code coverage? Let's move on to that one. Vern asks, such good stuff. Is this style of organization only a Python thing? Does it work for others? Is it just how you implement them? Good questions, good questions. So Vern, with the way that we're doing things in here is Python does it this way, JavaScript does it this way, where you can you have these constructs like classes and functions, and you can decide how you organize your stuff based off of that, right? So like with things like JavaScript and TypeScript, you usually have this like describe, and you can say things in here, right? Describe stuff. This would be like the CLI, right? And then you're able to do things with it. And then it and all that good stuff. You also have another one called context. So there's like and again, it's just a few different ways. Context is essentially the same thing as describe. It's like, here's the context for the test we're going to put in here, right? But context or describe is a way for you to organize your suite of tests. And then in here, you would say, it should have this thing, just like it's saying here. Exactly right. Well done, Copilot. Sure. So if we were doing this way, You could think of this describe as the class in Python and it as these tests, right? But you can do things like have describes within describes. That kind of organization does work, and you can do the same thing in Python, right? You can have a class with that and then another class within it too, right? And this does also work. So you can get pretty flexible. You can get pretty complicated with how you organize your stuff. So that's why I'm saying, like, I like being as simple as I possibly can, because having describe, or context describe, or describe context, like doing too many levels, it gets harder to read your code and harder to read the tests. Dekilishik says, I work with that. Nice. Describe used in Pester PowerShell. Describe used in PowerShell? Nice. I didn't know that. Yeah, describe context it. Yeah, so you're able to kind of organize your tests in that way. And Vern says, I meant like the way you organize without classes. So yeah, I mean, you can do the same thing with TypeScript. In Java, well, yeah, so in object-oriented languages like a Java or a C#, you have to be in a class, right? There's no way around that. You have to be in a class, where in languages like JavaScript or Python, Go, you don't have to be in a class. So you can organize your tests in a different way. So that's why I didn't talk about Java or C#, because they're very different from Python, where JavaScript and Python, Ruby, Go are a lot closer together. Good question. Okay, that was my question. Fantastic. So next up, how do you report code coverage? Let's go. So I'm gonna open a different project here because we actually had one. Where are you? Our movie example that has code coverage. So let's open this one up and then we can see. So inside of my pyproject.toml file, I want to show this because there is a package called pytest that I'm using with pytest. And this library is just a plugin to pytest. So obviously you have to use pytest to use it. But you don't have to change anything about how you run your tests. You keep running pytest the way you were before. You just add some new flags to it, and then it will generate the code coverage reports. So let me close this. Right here, I have a command called test. So I can say pytest, and if I run that command, it's kind of like npm run test. If I run the command, it does this thing right here. Pytest tests, meaning run all of my tests, but then do a code coverage against everything inside of the project. For the code coverage report, I do want to know what things are missing and then display that. So right now, this is going to be displayed to my terminal, right? Because I'm saying the cover report term missing. But you can generate the code coverage to be an actual code coverage file that you can upload, because that's probably what you're going to do once you're inside of CI or you're inside of pipelines. You probably want to get the code coverage file and upload it to whatever system you're using, right? So if you're using something like SonarQube has a dashboard where you can upload a code coverage file and it will turn it into a dashboard and tag things with the build number, with the branch name, stuff like that, right? So this term missing is useful for when you're doing things locally because it'll show me inside of my terminal this information. So let's check it out. I don't think we were at 100% code coverage anymore here, by the way. But I don't want to be inside of there. So let's go poetry run, po, and test. Let's see what we get. So there you go. You can see it ran this command right here. It's running all of the tests. Let's see what we get back. We have 99% code coverage. Oh man, we're so close to 100. Might as well hit the 100. But all right, here you go. So inside of this, you can see that we have these 3 test files. These 3 test files are covering the 3 things that we have. We care about the setup, right? Make sure that when you clone my project or fork it down and you set it up, that everything's working correctly. So we have a setup file, very unit testy. And then we have this discover and this test account. These 2 are more API style of tests, where we're hitting their instance and making sure that we can hit it, get things back, and make sure that all works the way that we expect, right? So they have an account route, and they have a discover route for the movie database. And so that's what these tests are going over. And I'll go into one of these so you can get an idea. DKillerChick, thank you. Still nice, right? 99% coverage. We didn't get all the way. But notice how in here, this is the code coverage report for the terminal with the missing lines included. So remember when I ran the command, we did this coverage report. I want it in the terminal, and I want you to include the missing line numbers so I can go fix it. Right? So this is a wonderful way for when you're locally doing things. I don't need to generate the code coverage report, like the file for it, because I'm not going to upload it anywhere. I just want to see what I'm missing so then I can quickly fix it and keep moving on. DKillerChick asks, so that is code coverage report for tests code, right? Yes, correct. Correct. And I'll show you the test file so you can see exactly what's happening. And then I'll also show you this too, because right now we have one line missing. We have one line missing, and even telling us which line it is to get to 100% code coverage. So in all of these files, the code coverage pytest cov looked at every one of these files and generated with its own little algorithm that it has. It's telling you how many statements exist in that file and how many of those statements are missing. Right? So in our settings.py file, there are 8 statements inside of settings.py, and 0 of them are missing coverage, meaning that we have 100% code coverage on the file, and there's nothing missing right here. And you take that same concept and you go through this list here, you can see that like 16 lines, 50 lines, 15 lines, 6 lines, 49 lines, all these numbers here. And then over here, it's beautiful zeros and only 1 that's missing. Give me that 98%. Ouch, feels bad. Right? Makes sense. Holy moly. I know, right? It's pretty great. Now, if you missed the stream where we did this, we did this entire project purely in TDD. We did the entire thing with test-driven development. And by the time we were done, we had like 95% code coverage. It was a really high number. And we had 95% code coverage because we were doing TDD. The last 5% that we had was because we weren't fully covering all of the negative scenarios for our functions. And that's why we were missing the 5%. And so the great insight that this gave us was don't forget to write your negative scenarios, because right now a lot of your scenarios are very happy. They're very, yep, you're going to send this perfect object, you're going to receive this perfect object back. And so we added some negative tests to say, what if the username is incorrect? What if the API token hasn't been authenticated? What if all those what ifs that we had were those negative scenarios. We added tests for that, and that got us to the 100%. And I don't remember why we had one missing, but let's go check it out. So in this file, the movie database /account.py on line 87, we're missing that one. So let's go check it out. So let's go check it out. Right here. So this is the line that is teaching us a lesson. So we have this function called getMovieWatchList. We have to pass in a session ID that's authenticated. That way we can actually hit the API with an authenticated token and session ID and the account for the person that we want to get the watch list from. Given those two things, we then get the session back. The movie watch list back. However, if something goes awry and the response is not okay, then raise a value error and tell us this. Right? So what this is telling us is that we have tests covering line 83, covering 84, 85, and even 88. We have tests covering all of those branches, this main branch that we have. But we do not have any test that's covering line 87. Meaning that all of our tests are only checking when the response is okay. We have 0 tests checking when the response is not okay. Very nice, very nice. So let's see what we can do to get or trigger this, exercise this line 87, right? As I'm looking at it, there's a whole bunch of inputs that can be wrong, right? It could be a session ID that's invalid. It could be a session ID that isn't authenticated. I know this API, so that wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't be able to get to this if the session ID was not authenticated, because you have to be authenticated to generate a session ID. But if you didn't know, that's probably a good question to ask, right? Account ID. What if the account ID doesn't exist? What if the account ID is in a string form, not an integer form? What if, you see, like there's a whole bunch of inputs now, and any one of these could be wrong and most likely trigger this response is not okay. So let's make at least one here. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit because I'm super duper close. Don't pinch too hard. We can do this. Come on. Oh, dang it. I barely moved my finger and I'm flying. All right. That's good. That's good. Okay. This is just a long line, and that's my fault. All right. So let's go down here and let's make another one. This is for when... I know, my butthole's clenched too hard. Now it's like this. And then it goes flying when I do that. All righty then. So let's make a new test. Let's say, like, here's our test get movie watch list. But if the account ID or the session ID are Kaplupski, we could write a lot of negative tests, by the way. So, cannot get movie watch list with non-existent account ID or something like that. I think Copilot is on the right track here. I'll pass in a session ID and then some, doesn't really matter what account ID. Right now they're passing in a string of account ID, and there should be no account with the ID of account ID. So I think this is a fine input from Copilot. I like it. I like it. Finally made it. Dat David, welcome, welcome, welcome. A meeting all day. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I was able to get most of my meetings done early in the morning today, which was nice. But sometimes I don't get to. Sometimes I have to do it during lunch, and that's why today I started really late, because I had meetings from 12, like 11 to 1:30. But yeah. Holden Riot says, so if I wanted to be able to just run test coverage in terminal, and I wanted it to execute pytest cover report terminal, what would that look like in pytest.ini file? So you'd probably be able to add, like in the ini file, and we'll give this a try, because right now this is theory from me. So let's add it. Pytest.ini, we're going to need our pytest section. And then for the add options, you could probably just say cov is equal to this and cov report HTML, and it'd probably look something like that. So give that a try. Oh, look, on my left-hand side, it generated the HTML cov already. So it got it ready. Jeez. Yeah, so it probably looks something like that, Holden Rant. So give that a try. I'll get to that here real soon, because I'm curious now, so I'm going to check it out myself. But I'm assuming it would be something like that. And this is actually something that you can do it like this, I want to say. I think you can even, because you might have a lot of them. One that's really popular would be like the -s is a really popular one. And all the -s does is if you do any print statements in your test, normally when you run your test, you don't see them unless the test fails. You might see it, but it's not in a very pretty place. So doing this -s will actually print out your standard output. So now your print functions, like print this, you will actually see it in your test output. So it's probably something like that. But we'll get to it, because I want to make sure that's true before I just say like, yes, proceed. Because I'm not 100%, but I want to say that's got to be it. Okay. Oh yeah, we're in the test. Let's make sure this. So this should pass right now, because we want this value error to be raised when we pass in an invalid account ID. And like I said, no one in the database should have the account ID with the string of account ID. That just shouldn't happen. So let's see what happens. Let's run. And we get a failure. And it says, I did not raise an error. Mother of pearl. So we passed in a string of account ID and it didn't fail. So what? What? It was okay with this. Well, see, now I'm even more curious. So let's go check it out. What the heck? How are you okay? So account ID, we passed in a string. Python is not strongly typed, by the way. So even though we're saying we expect an integer, if we pass in a string, it's like, all right. So just know that. That's why it's not stopping here. For the account ID, though, we put it in here. And so it would hit it, but the response was okay. Oof. Well, let's go check it out. It was okay. Debug. Let me do it. It looks like because I'm in the with context, it's not going to execute that line. So let's do this instead then. So in our get movie watch list, I do want it there, but let's run another test real quick. And let's replace this. I'll do it in here where we're not inside that with context. Result is equal to account.getMovieWatchlist with the session ID. And the account ID, let's do this, just like what we had, down in the negative test. And now, yeah, I'm really curious. Why is it passing? And okay, by the way, when you say response.okay, all that means is that you got a 200x response. So it might be that they're returning a 200 response, but with a failure message. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way. It skipped my debug. It's skipping my debug. What the heck? Ever since they moved to this, I've been getting some problems, y'all. Ever since. Are you not going to stop my breakpoint? Is my breakpoint not cool enough for you? Oh my gosh, it's not. No, don't be like JavaScript. You were so easy to debug before. Yes, sir, that works. I also added a lure report as an append for optional reporting with a lure report, which is nice. Nice. Okay, perfect. So Holden is saying that this works. So that was my hunch. But I'm glad you tried it out because that's really good. Redeem, highlight my message. What is this chat highlighting even doing? I mean, it shows it's highlighted as if, like you said, at Carlos Kidman. It looks the same thing. But I don't know what highlighting the message means, though. DKillShug, if you saw, I'm a boomer when it comes to Twitch, so I apologize. And Holden Riot says, I was just curious if I can only write test coverage to run that instead. And yeah, I mean, the nice thing about like the plugin like this is you could keep adding, right? You could have many coverage reports. So if you wanted to do both of them, you could, right? You could have your cov report be XML, even if you want an XML version, because you might have like two services that want it. So maybe you send one to SonarQube, because SonarQube might use that information for something, and you might want to send it to like InfluxDB so you can visualize your code coverage in like a dashboard like Grafana that maybe management is using. And so if you need to, like, you can do different ones and you can keep adding to it, and it'll generate every one of these code reports for you, which is also very convenient. Very nice, very nice. Very nice. So I'll leave that here for now. Oh yeah, I don't know why this is not stopping on my thing. I put a breakpoint here in 79. Let's try again. And I've only had problems with this ever since VS Code updated and they put the run and debug over here in the gutter. I've been having issues ever since. That's unfortunate. For the love, I really don't want to have to print things out, but I might have to. Let's do it. They won't let me, so all right. Let's print out the response.json and let's see what we get back. So fine, I'll console.log. Thanks a lot, Python, or I should say VS Code. How dare you make this difficult for me? Let's run it. Should have left in the file, but then made that a dropdown. Yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with like the experience of it, right? I'm fine with it being in the gutter and clicking it. Like, I'm okay with that, right? Instead of being inside of the file. So I do like that. I've just been having problems with the debugger lately. Also with notebooks. So with their Jupyter notebooks, I'm having issues there too, where sometimes things aren't, like normally when you're in a notebook, you run a cell and then the output gets displayed under the cell. Ever since their update this month, I'm not getting any output. Anytime I'm using TensorFlow, it doesn't work. So I don't know. But let's see what we ran here. Let's go to our output and let's change it to Python test log. And all right, let's see what we got. Wow, it works. It did work. Oh, snap. So this is what got printed out. So page 1, it was a suicide squad. Well, that's weird. So account ID is bad, and yet, okay, let's really make it blow up, right? Let's have the account ID just be none. That should make it blow up for sure, right? Like for sure it should blow up. No, it says it passed. What in the heck, David Blaine? Oh my gosh, it handles that too? Wait, what? So their API handles that. So I passed in an invalid account ID and it returned this. I passed in none as my account ID and it still worked too. Well, all right. And what the freak does the account ID, what's it there for then? Weird. Is it a caching issue on their end? I don't know, actually. I don't know. If we go to the movie docs, let's check it out. The MovieDB, the moviedb.org, the docs though. Let's go to, yeah, any one of these is fine. Let's go to their docs because now I'm curious. I was just showing some negative tests, but now I'm really curious about this. So we were getting the movie watch list. That's this one. And see, it says pass in an account ID. Aha! But it's optional. But if I pass in one that's valid, it doesn't seem to care. I pass in none, it doesn't care. I pass in a string, it doesn't care. So it feels like this should just not be there because it's not really doing anything. Well, I was expecting one of these, right? Like a 401 or something like that, but nope, it worked. Well, okay. Yeah, there you go. This is why you test APIs. Pass a negative integer. Let's do it. DKillerCheck, I love your idea. I love it. I love it. I just want to see the thing fail. Like, really, I just want to see it fail. So let's go with DKillerCheck's idea. Let's do a negative number. And let's do like a, something like that. Dun, dun, dun. Is it still going to pass? Wow, yeah, account ID, it doesn't care what it is. What if I pass in like a, and then, haha, there's no way this will work. Right? There's no way. I'm passing in an object now. It doesn't care. It doesn't care what it is. Oh my gosh. Let's send the devil himself. This thing is just passing. Okay. It wins. You win, API. I can't break you with account IDs. So there we go. Oh my gosh. Should have done 666. I know, right? What kind of API? It doesn't care. Okay. I can pass in an object. It's like, oh, I want an integer. Here's an object. Break. And it's passing anyway. Okay. Well, we'll have to, let's not use the account ID then. Let's use the session ID. Oops, I should probably add my closing parenthesis. There's a good idea. So this one should pass. Let's go down here and let's pass in a account ID that I know is valid. Account ID, but then let's put in for the session ID. Boom. This has to pass. Please raise an error. Please pass. Huzzah! Okay. If that passed too, I would have been like, no. There's just no. There is just nope, nobody, nope. We can get it to fail that way. We got to send poop to the API. Poop. There is no session ID with poop. And it didn't ignore it this time, so there you go. So basically that's a bug. I mean, I want to say yes. So the reason why I'm hesitating and just saying, of course it's a bug, is because that might be by design. I mean, they may actually want that to be the case. Like where if you pass in some stupid account ID, it doesn't care and it works anyway. This is definitely something, though, if I was working with them, I would 100% raise it. Because this is a weird experience, right? It may not be a bug, but it is a low quality experience because now we're like all of us are confused as to why this thing is working. So why the heck, what does the account ID actually do then? And so now the documentation is low quality. My experience using this endpoint is low quality. You know what I mean? So it may not be a functional bug, but it wasn't a great experience going through that. So a place of improvement. A place of improvement. I would definitely raise it though if I was the tester there. And say, yo, Carlos can pass in poop as an account ID and it works. Is that what you want? You know, you like it when Carlos sends poop? Is that okay with you? Yeah. That was weird, but okay. Well, the whole point of doing that, the whole point of us sending poop to this is so that we can have our 100% code coverage. Send some DB commands. I mean, seriously, right? That right there, Dkilashik, I think is pointing out something pretty interesting. Is yeah, if it can take anything, what if we send a DB command? Because either they're stripping it and ignoring it, or maybe they are sending it and something else is handling it, right? I'm really curious what their actual function for the endpoint looks like, right? And so if we were to send something like drop all tables, what would happen? Right now, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to be the person in charge of or responsible if that does work and hurts them. I don't want to be that person. But you are more than welcome to if you want to do some security testing on their stuff and see if you can actually hit their database and query things. Go for it. It might take a SQL injection. It might. 100% it might. Because it's taking anything right now. It doesn't care. So it might. It's also another thing from that is there's no way they're using a language like C# or Java for this endpoint, because then we would have a type error, right? We send a string and it says I was expecting an integer, so they must be using a dynamic language like Python or JavaScript or something like that, because it doesn't care right now that we send in something that's not an integer. All right, let's run our test again. Let's see what our code coverage looks like now. Now that we've added the negative test and we've seen that getting a movie watch list does fail, as expected, we should be at 100% code coverage now. So let's check it out. Poetry run, test. Run all of my tests and give me a coverage report. A NoSQL DB, you think? Well, even something like Mongo, for example, or Dynamo, even that you can add checking into it, like type checking. So it's more so how they designed the function themselves. It's not really like because it's a NoSQL thing, because you can have strong contracts and strong schemas in those NoSQL databases. And there we go. So there's our report. We're back to 100% code coverage. Whoop-diddy-doo. So there you go, y'all. And hopefully, I mean, this whole section was for Holden Riot. So Holden, I hope that has answered your questions. I don't know exactly which tool. I mean, I know that you're using Allure. So I don't know if you're using Allure's server to visualize your test results and code coverage and things. But if you're using anything else, any other data store, it's the same concept, right? You can either have the code coverage report as a file, save it as an artifact to be used by other pipelines, or send it to InfluxDB so that you can visualize it in Grafana, stuff like that, right? You can kind of throw it wherever you want to. So there it is. Pretty good. Yeah. Yes. And here you can see in this file, this one is for anything dealing with account and authentication. That's essentially this route account and this route authentication. So these two routes I put inside of my account.py file, this module. And so here you can see like what we're importing, different types as well. We do have some very strongly typed responses, like this add to favorites payload. Here we go, like going in the order of operations, creating a request token. Here's how you authorize a request token. Here's how you create a session ID from an authenticated token, getting my account details, mark something as favorite, add something to my watch list, and then get my movie watch list. And we could go on and on and on and just keep adding functions that map to these. Right, we could keep doing that. And if there was something that we felt like was something that we would do all the time, for example, if I don't want to do create request token and then authorize request token with login and then create session ID, like if I didn't want to have to write 3 lines anytime I needed a new session, well, at this point, we can now make a new function that is no longer tied to this. It's no longer tied to the API, but we can leverage the functions that we've created to create these more like flow functions that are doing many things. So for example, we could say create new session, let's say. And in order to do this, we would need a username and password. So username, password, yep. And then Copilot has the idea. It got it down. So our request token is going to create a new token, then authorize that token, and then create the session ID and return that. Right? And now I have one function that does 3 endpoints every time I do it. And I no longer have to call 3 separate lines every time. Just use this function. So now you're kind of building on top of those raw endpoints. We're making big automated functions on top of them to do bigger flows. And yeah, so a great example of that would be just what we did. I mean, that's a good example, of course. But if I wanted to add new movies to the database and have it just be like random movies, just so I could have more test data, we can make a function that says, how many movies do you want to create on this new user? And we could have count equal 10. And so it makes a new user, it creates 10 movies, adds them to their watch list, all in a single command. Stuff like that, right? And so now you're generating tons of data. You have these very smooth functions that are doing all that for you, stuff like that. So very cool. I'm gonna get rid of this, but just so you have the general idea. Good stuff. Holden says, using Allure Serve, pytest HTML, and pytest Cov at the moment, just giving folks the option to use what they wish with the framework. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful approach, right? You're building the framework in such a way that is flexible and portable. So regardless of whatever tool they want to visualize that stuff, they can use whichever one they want and you can port over to it. So I think that's a very, very smart approach. Very, very smart. Alrighty then. So MovieDB can jump off a cliff. And that's how do you report code coverage? Okay, so the rest of the time, unless y'all have other questions or topics you would like me to cover. If not, the very last thing we have for today is Exploring Shortcuts API. And this is mainly for work, like my own work. Shortcut is a project management tool, kind of like a Trello or Asana or Monday. It's one of those like simple project management tools. But I want my team to be in Kanban, like a very lean style of Kanban, as long as possible, right? Let's collaborate really well. Let's prioritize often, and let's just make sure we're working on the right thing on the right time, right? And I don't want us to be stuck in these constraints of like sprints and stuff. So that way, our conversations don't have to be around, well, I'm not going to finish this in time. Do I take it to the next sprint, or should I change the estimation? Like, I don't want to have those kind of conversations right now. So like I said, I want to be in this very lean Kanban style, but because I want that, I lose a lot of metrics and things that you get when you're in a sprint. So I don't want to like replicate burn down, because burn down is not really what I'm looking for, but I would like to leverage some of the APIs that they have in Shortcut, so I can write some automation myself, throw it into InfluxDB, visualize it with Grafana, and then I would have a dashboard for some metrics that I care about. And then map that with what we have in Azure DevOps right now. And now I have a centralized place and these cross metrics that can help me paint a picture for how people are doing and stuff like that. So, yes. And Vern asks, is that why you'd consider moving to more of a sprint-like model for metrics? I mean, that's a reason why a lot of people do. Because if you're in something like Jira, if like Jira gives you a lot of metrics out of the box, if you're in a sprint style format, right? If you're doing their Scrum version of stuff and you're in these 2-week sprints or 4-week sprints or however long you do it, you get a bunch of metrics out of the gate. Things like throughput and burn down, velocity, that kind of stuff. I think the problem is that people will get that information and then they will make the wrong decisions based off of those metrics. And now, instead of people working in a way that's best for them, they're working in a way that's best for Jira. And I think that's the problem, right? So if you're able to use the tool for what it's meant to be and you fit the tool to what you're trying to do as a team, I think it works great. And I think those metrics are valuable. But if you're changing the way you work, if a lot of the questions are process-based, and how do we fit this into the 2-week sprint? Oh, I can't work on that. And so I'm going to just twiddle my thumbs for 2 days because I don't want to bring anything into the sprint and mess my burn down. Like now the process is getting in your way. Now the tool's getting in your way. So I'm not a fan of that. Hope that answers your question, Vern. Okay, so let's go to the shortcut API. Yes. So here we are. They actually did give me their, where is it right here? They had it, where'd you go? Where did you go? Swagger, right here. So they have this Swagger OpenAPI file. And for anyone who's been watching the stream, we created a tool called PyClinic. And PyClinic is a way for us to automatically generate functions based off of only the Swagger or OpenAPI file. It's pretty freaking cool. But the problem is that theirs is in version 2. They're using version 2 of Swagger, mother of pearl. And we don't support version 2 right now in PyClinic. In PyClinic, let me go here. In PyClinic, we support Postman and we support OpenAPI 3, but we don't support OpenAPI 2 or Swagger 2 yet. So I'm like, mother of pearl. So I was so excited to get that file so then I could do this. This is the file, by the way. Looks like this, and it's massive. So I'm not going to scroll through it all. There's a lot of things in here. But it is Swagger, mother effing 2. Feels bad. So either I can, and I'm kind of leaning towards this, either I can just, I already imported it into Postman. We can just work with Postman and do the stuff I want to do. Or we can work with PyClinic to make it support version 2. So yeah. Let me show you what it looks like in Postman. I think I have it up, right? No, I do not. Let's wait 20 minutes for Postman to load. Let's fight. Oh no, the mods. No, don't do it. Nate wouldn't need a sword. He would automate his way out of the fight, or he'd automate his way to win the fight. My sword is greener. Hey now, people. It's not the size of your sword that matters. It's the content of the sword's heart. Okay? Whew. All right, so here we are inside of Postman, and here's a shortcut API. When I imported that lovely file, it generated all of this. And I changed the base URL. So edit the base URL right here is the Clubhouse, the api.clubhouse.io. They're changing their name from Clubhouse to Shortcut because the Clubhouse, the social platform, got really big and has had a lot of problems like security breaches and things. And so they're like, no, we don't want to be called that. We want to be called Shortcut. So I think on the 13th, question mark? I think on the 13th, they're changing the name right here. After September 13th, the API URL will change to this. So when the time comes in Postman or in code, it'll be really easy to change because we're going to change literally one string and then everything else will work. So it wasn't the color. It was the color. Ooh. It wasn't the size, eh? Open the browser version. It looks faster. Yeah, I might need to. because the console, not the console version, the what's it called, desktop version has me just wanting for more. But anyways, so here we are, API v3. I would probably want to do something like get current member info, something just really simple. It doesn't look like I have to pass anything into this. But the one thing I will need is we will need to set up an environment, because I will most likely need an API key. Right, so like here I'll probably have like a API key, and then I'll need to put in some value. I'll put poop here for now. Oops, I am not inside of Vim. So yeah, so I will need an API key eventually. Can you remove mod from me? No. Yours is transparent, pseudo. How do I change the color of a mod's sword? That way you can fight properly. It'd have to be red since he's green. All right, so let me try. Ooh, how does one remove mod? I'm not gonna lie, pseudo. I don't actually know how to. I know how to add people as mod, but I don't know how to remove you once you're there. Demod. What's it called? Unmod. If you can help me out with how to do it, then I will most definitely do so. I like how you can't unmake yourself. Is it really unmod? Oh my gosh. It is. Okay. There you go. No more sword for you, pseudo. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, all right. So I'm going to need my API key. I can't show you that, of course, because it's my API key. Like, no thanks. You don't get my API key. So let's get that first. Introduction, authentication should be in here somewhere. The shortcut API uses token-based authentication. I just knew it. To generate an API token, go to your account API tokens. To make it easier to explore API, we recommend saving this token as an environment variable in your local dev environment. Okay, so this part I'm going to do off screen. So I apologize, you're gonna have to just look at this for a while. So there you go. Wow, welcome to PyClinic. Oh gosh, look at those sweet texts. Is that blue text? Are those links? What? Wow, that's so cool, Carlos. How'd you make it blue? Little do they know I'm getting my API token right now. My API token name. Call it this, Kaplowski. All right, don't worry about me. Nothing happening here. Sorry, y'all gotta save. I just gotta save this stuff. Throwing it in my account, my secret vault, my password vault, whatever you want to call it. I'm throwing it in here. Okay. There we go. And then I need Postman real quick. Hey, Postman, come over here. Paste the Ruski. Paste the Ruski. Save it. And then let's switch to... Sorry, everyone. Almost done. I promise. I promise. Almost done. Okay, and then close that. Close that. Throw this back over here. I think we got there. And yes. Okay. Thank you for being patient. Thank you, thank you. Such understandable folks. Really appreciate it. So crisp. So professional. D Killichik says, so much of stuff has been deleted. In paste in Russian sounds Fastavit. I feel like I butchered that. I don't know how you say that. Maybe tonight in the Autobots you can teach me the ways of the Russian. Teach me the ways, D Killichik. That way I can speak more things, reach a broader audience. Okay, so we have our token. Awesome. This will allow you to copy and paste many of the example curl requests and stuff, rate limiting. Okay, so now that we have that, let's get one of our things, and I want to just member. This one should be easy. Get the current member info about the authenticated member. So we need to authenticate first then. Introduction, authentication. Are they going to tell me API requests can accept the API token from the shortcut token header or the token query parameter? However, the query parameter method is deprecated and will be removed in future versions. So I have to pass it in the shortcut token. That's an interesting way to do it. But okay, shortcut token in the header. Okay. Shortcut token in the header. Can I just add that here? Edit. Ooh, try that again. Edit. And then authentication. Can I just add it in the headers? Ugh, API key? No, they call it something very specific. Well, let's try it their way. Let's try it their way. And yeah, get a member, member public ID, get current member info. Here we are. I was already here. Headers, shortcut token, API key, send. Could not send request. Mother of pearl. You got auto moderation. Oh. That literally mean put in. Oh. But not Putin. Alrighty then. I think Vern got found out. Like Vern is actually just sitting there hanging out and Automod is doing all the heavy lifting. Invalid character in the header content shortcut token. Man, what is it saying? Show me the stuff. Show me shortcut token, API token. Invalid character in header content shortcut token. Is that not what they called it? Shortcut token. API request can accept the API token from the shortcut token header. Why can't they just do like OAuth and I can have it be like a bearer token, like a normal person? From the shortcut token header or the token query parameter. Shortcut token header. Let's see. Maybe I can just do this. The key is shortcut token. The value is API key. Add to header. Oh, there we go. Let's try this way. I can do, dang it. What? What? Anyone have any ideas for this not very good Postman user? Yeah, so I got rid of it here. We're doing authorization, add an API key. The key is shortcut token. That's what they said. Shortcut token. That's what I'm calling it. Let's copy and paste it just to be safe. I'm going to maximize this. Shortcut token, just like that. Yep, same thing. And it can't send it. It can't send it. View in console. The request did not get sent completely and might not have all the required system headers. Let's go check it out. So that's what it says. Let's go to the actual thing though. Member, get the member stuff, get current member info right here. So this is what they're doing. So content type, application JSON, shortcut, it's a GET request. So shortcut token, shortcut API token. Do I need to put it in a string, perhaps? I didn't think I'd have to, but That David, we need a postman, a smart postman person. We need you. My accept says anything. Maybe I need to change that. Because right here they're saying the content type is application JSON. That should be the default though, but we can make sure that's set as well. Content type. It's not in here, so maybe. I really don't like that this is just showing. What the hell? Why are you just showing everything? Well, you feel great. Shortcut token. Do I need to put it in a string, perhaps? Is that the problem? Oh, this time nothing happened. Cool. Let's add the content type. Content type. And we're going to say this is application JSON. Yes. Send. I get nothing back. What the heck? Let's see. Dkilishik says, they say it should be in the header. Well, that's what we're doing. Right? We added it to the header. We also just added it here. Like specifically, we did the same thing. So send. But now I'm getting nothing. Like now it's not saying anything at all. So let me open the console this way. So the token now has 2 quotes around it. Right? So that was not the right way to do it. But then why weren't you working before? Right here. Send again. The response says, I couldn't do anything. There's nothing. Could not send request. Clubhouse IO API. Let's make sure the URL is good. Because now it's not sending anything. There's an invalid character in the header. Which one you seeing? Because I didn't see anything. So show me what you mean. Let me close this one. Or close this one. Right here. Shortcut token. What the heck? There's an enter thing in there? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So let's go to the API key. I gotta do it. I gotta do it this way. Hold on, I have to hide this. I have to hide this because I'm gonna look at my token again. So let's go here. And apparently I must have pressed enter. Because there's an enter in this. Oh my gosh, there is. Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, the more you know. The more you know. I must have pressed enter. And that saved the enter character. So let's try this again. And there we go. And it has my ID estimate scale, Fibonacci, and that's all it includes. So there you go. We got my information. Whew. That's what I learned working through 30 Days of Postman Challenge. Read the console a lot. Yeah. And part of my problem is that I do a lot of my API stuff just in code. So I don't use Postman or API clients very much because I just do it through the code. So whenever I want to use it, I'm like, how do I do the stuff? But now we have it, so we should be good there. But I would want to have this everywhere. So let's add this to our, let's add this here. So auth, we have API key. This was the shortcut token. Shortcut token. And the value was API key. Add it to the header and save. There we go. Okay. And now I don't need this anymore. Authorization. We can just say inherit from the parent, which will be the collection. So that way all of my requests will have that API token. I don't have to pass it into every one of these things. So we'll do that. Yes. And now it worked. So fantastic. There we go. So all of these should kind of behave the way that we're expecting. But I want to write some code now. Let's get into some code. Because now that we see it working and we know what we need to do. So open recent. Let's go to our... We called it... What did I call it? I called it... Shortcut API, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what I called it. Shortcut API I did. Okay, and I wanted to use the cookie cutter thing. So I wanted to use cookie cutter because that was cool from sudo yesterday. That was really cool. So let's go see how we can add this wonderful thing. I added my own. I called it Mr. Pig. I don't remember what I called it. Look at my repos, man. Repository. It's not a problem, man. Thank you, DKillerShack. Thank you for understanding. Okay, so it was... Oh, whoops. I clicked on the wrong one. Python cookie cutter. That's what I called it. This is what I called it. And I needed this URL. And then in code, I say... In code, I say cookie cutter and then paste. Whoops. Mother of pearl, I did it again. I did this yesterday too. Right there. Let's see it. Cookie cutter. Add it. Directory name. I guess just shortcut API. Shortcut API. Project name. Shortcut API, project slug. Sure. Project version, yes. 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 Okay, and then I added everything in here, but technically I wanted all of this outside. Technically, I wanted everything that was inside of this, but like outside of it. So I currently have a README. So let me delete this README. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't do it exactly the way I wanted, but that's okay. So in the shortcut API, I got all of this yummy stuff, all this fantastic stuff, but I want it like right here. Yeah. And they should have nothing in it. So I don't want you anymore. Delete. Move to trash. Oh, what a sad sound. Yes. 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 Okay, this is what I want. Okay? And then from there I should just say poetry install and it just be super awesome. It should just be great now. Python, PyYAML, Fire, TensorBoard, Jupyter. Well, I guess I don't want all of these. But pytest, pylint, I actually use my homie Flake8. I use Flake8, but cookie cutter, wand, rich, JSON patch, Visdom, auto pep8, flake, pytest. Yeah, I'll need to change this because I totally forgot to change this for what I do. Poop Earth, that's okay. That's okay. And then for this one, I don't need these. Jupyter, TensorBoard, Fire, PyYAML, Python. Well, Fire, let's see Fire. Let's see Fire there. PyYAML, I'll delete this one too. Okay. And now poetry install. And then we'll add things. So now we're going to get a virtual environment auto-generated. Let's see what happened. Yeah. Profile equals black. Installing the current project shortcut. Installing the current project shortcut. Not enough values to unpack. that's this one. Shortcut. Why are you freaking out? No. Neither this one too, so not this one either. Okay. This is my first cookie cutter experience, y'all. So hold on. I'm trying to remember everything I needed to do here. Didn't like installing shortcut. Why? Why did you not happy with this? Shortcut poetry install. Is it because it needs to be shortcut API? Is that why? Uh-oh. You might need to help me here. Sudo, if I'm doing something wrong. So install everything, shortcut API. I called it the name of my project, by the way, and that fixed it, but interesting. So Python, fire, and then let's add some stuff. So poetry, add, we're going to add black. Sure, that one's fine. Add black. Let's add flake 8. Not flake 9, flake 8. Let's add the poet. Let's add pytest. Yeah, these are the things I got to add in my cookie cutter template. I got to add this stuff. Well, actually, pytest kev. And let's see here. I need to add requests because we're dealing with an API. What else do I need? Do I need anything else? I don't think so. Validating template variables. I will check that one out in the later skis because right now I'm ready going. I'm firing right now. I'm on fire. Okay. You can add hooks. I will need to check it out. Adding hooks to cookie cutter. Okay. We have black going. We have flake 8 going. The poet, pytest kev. I can't think of anything else I need right now. And then here I can't think of anything else either. So we'll leave that here. I think that VS Code now actually detects the poetry stuff. So let's find out. Will they have one called Shortcut API or not? Come on now. Oof, it was on such a good track record. It was on a good track record, but that's okay. That's okay. Give me my stuff, please. Bin Python. Didn't work today. Womp womp. That's okay, VS Code. That's okay. As long as you can debug and do some notebooky things, I'm okay with you still. I think we're done here. Our project seems to be set up. We have a whole bunch of ish. But that's okay too. And Pseudomaze is saying, for cookie cutter, those hooks, like validation for inputs, pull data from a website, or any simple script to be done before or after rendering the project. That is pretty slick. That is pretty powerful. That would be nice for like a .env file, because then you could auto-populate the .env based off of some like conditions and stuff. That would be cool. So here in tests, we have a conf test, nothing in it. That's fine. Let's make a new test. I'm going to call this one just setup. We're going to need, I need the python.env. Python.env. Okay, perfect. All right, and then let's go import. What do I need? From .env, import load.env. We'll keep this one here for now. From .env. From .env. dot, no, I'm pretty sure that's it. Load.env. Okay, and then for the test, let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone. There we go. This is what Copilot is saying. Test environment variables exist. Ensure that all environment variables are set. Yeah, basically, we'll need to import OS, but this doesn't exist, this doesn't exist. And this one would be API key. And I like to say os.environment. I guess we can do that. I would rather actually do assert os.get env API key. Here's not none. Okay. And as I have more, we can add them in here. So either do an assertion like that or do a parameterized test, and either way, we can do that. This, I like doing it this way more so, but Copilot, that's okay. Thank you for doing that. All right, let's set up our test now. Configure tests. We are using pytest. We are in the tests directory. I should set this up, and boomski. Now we can run this, and it should fail because I don't have it set up yet. So yes, perfect. So right now it's saying assert none is none because API key doesn't exist. So beautiful. So it's failing as expected because now we need to add this thing in here. So let's do so. You can say new file.env, and in here API key is equal to something. Is equal to something. So let me grab this. I'm gonna throw it on this side because I don't want y'all to see my stuff. So hold on real quick. I'll throw this one over here too. And bear with me for a second as I do this. Just for a quick segundo. Thank you for your understanding. You are so cool for understanding. Hold on, something weird here. How dare you add the enter space again? Why is it doing that? Stop adding enter. How dare you add enter? Okay. There we go. All right, so let's expand this again. I now have it, so if I did everything right, it should work. There we go. My .env is highlighted right now, which I do not want. So where is my wonderful gitignore file? I don't have one. Dang it. Wait, what? I thought that I added one. Gitignore, where are you? Right here. Dinkelberg. Hold on. Okay, let's grab all this. I wanted all of it. Copy it all. Hiya. Copy. Come over here. Let's make one. .gitignore. Paste it all in here. There we go. VS Code got ignored. .env or lock file got ignored. Let's get rid of that. Everything else looks good. Definitely don't want to send my .env up. That would be no bueno. Don't want to share my whole API key with the world. So there's that. Okay. Good stuff. Now, this we can move. I have it in the file right now, but technically there's going to be a lot of things that want it. So we could go in the conf test file and we could paste it in here. Now all of our tests will have this load.env at the beginning of the test run. So I don't have to add those two lines to every single test file that I have. Eventually though, our functions and stuff should just, our functions and things should already load the .env. So eventually I should be able to take these two lines out of the conf test, but for now they're there. So there's that. So the next test I want to write is test member.py. And I'm going to say members because I want to put a lot of things in here. Originally I said member because the name of the endpoint is member, but I don't want to just have one test in here for the member thing, so we'll probably say members. That's probably better. So let's import requests and then test get my member info, just like that. And then we're going to need everything that we did in Postman. I'm going to need in here, right? So we have our current like base URL, which I will most likely want to put in somewhere that's a lot more global. But it was API Clubhouse. Let's just grab it from, where are you, Postman? Let's grab it from here because we already did all this work. We did all of it already. It is variables, u. So let's grab that, come over here. That's the base URL. And then we have the next part would be the version of it. API v3. So yes, API v3. Let's save this. Save. API v3. I can do, it's fine, I'll just copy that. Then we have API version. Version is equal to /API/v3. Cool, and then we have just the endpoints after that, or the routes after that. So okay, let's say the URL then is equal to the base URL plus the API version, and now we can do stuff. So our response is going to be equal to request.get URL plus members. Nice. I think it was a single member though. Yep, single member. Okay, so there's that. But we have headers as well. For the headers, this is going to require our API key, which was shortcut token, and this was os.getenv API key. Bring this in. Bring this in. It won't let me. Cool. Import OS. The response is that, and let's just do a really shallow. Let's do a really shallow test here, just to make sure everything's working. Hopefully it debugs. So right-click debug test, because I want it to end there. Hey, the debugger's working again. Fantastic. Very cool. And we got a 401, so let's check it out. So 401, was it okay? Nope, it's false. Sorry, the organization context for this request is missing. If you have any questions, please contact us. So we did something wrong here. So in the headers, we had our content type application JSON, and then authorization, we had the shortcut token thing. And that was it. Shortcut token API key. Shortcut token API key. Let's say API key is equal to os.getenv API key. Let's do it this way just to make sure. API key. So grab that, the headers, and then let's add the headers. Carlos, what the heck? Add the headers. How about that? That's a good idea. That's probably why it failed. I forgot to add it. Well, you win some, you lose some. All right. It should have worked now. Yay. It's been a long day. Leave me alone. I've been awake for like 12 hours. All right. Goodness. So for the headers, we've done this before. We did this inside of our, let me pull it up here. It was inside of the Python movie good stuff. Your repositories. Where are you, friends? The movie example. So right here, we did this already. So I just want to take a look at how we did so. It was inside of settings.py. In settings.py, we did it something like this. Something like this. So we can follow kind of the same suit if we just wanted to use a module to hold all of our stuff, that would work. Or we could get like a settings class and have an object that's holding all of our stuff. Either one. Sudomaze with the... So let's do something similar to this then. Might as well, right? Why reinvent the wheel when it's already doing its thing? So new file, settings.py. We can always adjust this approach if we feel like there's a better way. But for this, obviously the base URL is going to be different. We'll have the base URL and the version, and then just something called URL, and that should be enough. So API key, yes is that. I don't need this. I don't need this. And then for the headers, we needed one called shortcut token. And then it was quite literally the API key. Yep. Let's go to here. Let's grab these. We do it the Vimy way though. There we go. Go over to settings. Wait. Paste. I mean, do I really even need this? It's fine. I'll leave it there for now. That's okay. API key, headers, and the stuff and things. All right. Whoops. So I don't even need this really anymore. This is pointless. Pointless conf test file. All of this is gone. And now I just need to import settings, I guess. Import settings. And then I could say, let's do it this way actually. Let's say from settings, whoops. Import the URL and the API key. Yeah, I guess actually, I don't need the API key. I just need the headers. All right, run. It should still work because we didn't change anything. We just refactored the stuff, so the test should still pass, and it does. Cool. I don't need this anymore. All right, not too bad. We got our member info. Good stuff. We'll leave our settings alone for now. And yeah, I mean, we'd want to, so like right now, just in case people are wondering, like, yes, the current way I'm doing my settings is not the sexiest way, because if we had like a V2 and a V3, like how does this constant help me determine that, right? It doesn't right now. It's a static string, and so it doesn't. I don't have a way of switching it to V2 or V3 unless I had two constants, which probably isn't the right approach either. And so right now I'm leaving it like that just because I'm not expecting there to have to work with V4 or anything right now. But if you were working with like A/B testing, let's say, and you had V2, V3, V4, then yeah, we probably want some easier way to determine which version to use and then adjust everything to work with that. So just like we did with at the beginning of the stream, when we were passing in like Cli Args, we wrote, right, the option to add in the CLI, we wrote a way to build the URL, and then we wrote the way to actually like parse it out and determine which environment to target. Exact same concept, just instead of doing that for API or like UI tests, we'd be doing the same exact thing just for this API stuff that we're doing. So do know that we can be dynamic, and I know that my current approach is not. I know. All right, so with that, I mean, I think everything in here is our oyster now. We can kind of just grab stuff, right? And so my next question would be, I would love to see their cookbook. Let's go grab that. They had one of these. They had a cookbook for ways that you can, where are you? They had some ideas like, here's how you can like, using epics, create some metrics off of epics and stuff like that. So they already had something. I want to go check it out, but I don't remember where it was. Let's see here, right here. Examples, take advantage of open source libraries that use the API, as well as our cookbook. I'm not going to take advantage of their Python library right now because it's behind, and it's going to be even more behind once they change their name from Clubhouse to Shortcut. It'll be really behind. And so I'm going to not use that for now, and instead we'll just look at their cookbook. So let's check it out. Let's see what inspiration they have for us. Again, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, so let's see what they got for us. They have some Kanban metrics. It's like they read my mind. And here's how they do stuff. These retrieve the average lead time and cycle time, which are great metrics, by the way, for the specified epic or milestone, and create a CSV in your downloads folder. The time for both lead and cycle time is displayed in seconds. To use these scripts, make sure your virtual environment is active. Use poetry, friends. Let's see, milestone, lead, and cycle time. To fetch the lead and cycle time for a specific milestone, type python milestone metrics.py and press run enter to run the script. You'll be asked to enter the name for the export file and the ID for the milestone. When the script has finished running, you'll see a message that your file is available in your downloads folder. And then you have epic, lead, and cycle time. To fetch the lead and cycle time for a specific epic type. For a specific epic, type python epic metrics and press enter to run the script. You'll be asked to enter the name of the export and the ID for the epic. When the script has finished running, you'll see a message that your file is available in your downloads folder. Let's see here. You might consider adjusting these scripts to use a list of epic or milestone IDs. Other example scripts in this cookbook loop through the story IDs. Those may be good examples for determining how to loop through a list of IDs and make a GET request for each ID in the list. All right, so these two are actually the executables. So let's check out the epic metrics real quick, and let's see how they're doing it. So here they have get your API or get your token from the local environment variable. We're doing that already. We have all this already too. So it's all of this / epic. So this looks like the endpoint here. So let's make a new file, a new test file. Let's make a new test file. New file test epics.py. Okay, we're going to bring in requests real quick. And then from settings, import just the URL and also the, the headers. That's right. Okay, so we have that. And then def test get list of epics. It's going to be something like that. All right, just to stub something out so I have it ready to go. And now they have create CSV with epic headers, document name with headers, open this and do stuff. All right, but how are they? Create CSV with epic. So this just creates the CSV. Epic lead cycle times. Get epic API response. Get epic API response. Epic stats. Get API response stats. Epic stats. So what the heck? So you have to pass in a response to this. So get epic API response. Get API response. I'm assuming this one. Look at the main function because this is actually what's doing all the magic. So let's check it out. So yes, all that stuff. Good. Output, create CSV with the document name. Get API response. So what's this one? Okay. Get API response with the endpoint, the entity ID, URL. There you go. Response. Get that. Raise for status. Accept request.exceptions, request exception as print response.json. Okay. And this epic endpoint is coming from epic endpoint equals epics. Okay. Epics and then passing the epic ID. All right. So if they're able to do this, that means that they are following a pretty standard, like they have a very nice like pattern going for them, which is how they're able to make it like this, right? So at the very least in this file, because I don't want to just generalize it because it may not work for all other endpoints, but at least for this it does, which is interesting that they made it so generic. But okay. Epic lead cycle times, get API response, epic ID. So I want to get all of the epics first because I have no idea what their IDs are. And I can't show you Clubhouse because it's all my work, right? It's for work, so I can't show you that. So for now, let's just hit epics, get all of the epics that we have, and just get a list of them, right? And sure enough, epic workflow, there's one thing called epics. Okay. We hit /epics, and we have one thing called includes description, and otherwise it returns something that looks like this. Do you have it in an easy to consume way? Because that would be great. That would be great if you did. It looks like it doesn't. Let's just hit it then, because I don't think there's anything else we really need to send. It says this is a body parameter, but I don't know if we need to send that. So let's find out. Let's find out. Response is equal to, good job, Copilot. Yep, URL /epics, and then the headers. Perfect. And then let's just say response.ok, just so we can debug right quick. And I meant to right click, but hey, it passed, so we know it works. So the response itself inside of here has a bunch of info, so we're good. So that's how easy it is for us to get a list of epics now that we have the rest of the project set up. Like hitting the endpoint and getting the response back is this easy. For us, it's just a single liner now, which is pretty great. So I don't care that it's okay. I now want like the data. So response.json, and let's stop here. So like I said, this is a shallow assertion. I don't care about that assertion. I just want to inspect this and explore the data that we're working with here. So let's check it out. The data is a list of epics, and each epic has an app URL, is an archived, started, entity type, labels, mention IDs, member mention IDs, project IDs, so we know exactly the projects that are part of this epic. Stories without projects, completed override, started at, completed at, name, completed, it's in progress, the milestone that it's attached to, epic state ID, don't know what that means, group ID updated at, its own ID that it has, the deadline created at, like, woo. So each one of these is dealing with this information. So I want to, can I, let's open up response, close these two. I want to look at data right here. Data, let's right click. Can I copy the value? Yes. Okay, and then let's go to, let's call it, it was, gosh, JSON to Pydantic. There we go. Let's give it a try. And crap, it didn't do it all. Yep, it's not showing all of it. No, completed at, name, none. Labels. Can I really not see this? Invalid JSON, mother of pearl. Probably because of this. Now do you see? Nope. Is it because these are single quotes and not double quotes? That's probably why, huh? Mother of pearl, it is why. Dang it. Okay, then let me do copy value, but it only got to project status, right? Or project setup, name project setup. So it got as far as here, and that's it. Fine, I'll print you then. I just want the data. I want the data. Print it to me, please. Print it so I can see it. Poetry run pytest. Test epics, please. And -s that ish. I just need the whole thing, but I need it in not this way though. So the thing doesn't work if the quotes are single quotes. Feels bad, dude. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, let's go tiny bit. There we go. So copy this. Oops. How do you, let's take advantage of new file, shoot. Poop.json, perfect. Let's paste it in, and then let's go with, what's it called? Nope, I didn't mean to press you, not you. I want to replace every single quote. So find every single quote and replace it with a double quote, and do it for all of them. Replace all, yes. And now format this ish. Format document. There are multiple formatters for JSON files. Prettier, sure. Okay, try again. Format the document. Is it because these? F my life. Okay, let's do the same thing again. Same trick that we did before. I want to find all of the faults and replace it with faults. Do it to all of them. And then I want to get all of the true and replace it with true. All of them. Okay. And now will you save and be happy with me? I have to format the document again. Come on now. Prettier. What's wrong with you right now? Well, it doesn't matter. Because really all I care... What? None. Okay, we got to do that one too. That one too. So let's get all of the nuns and turn the nuns into nulls. None into null and replace all of them. None into null, yes. And now we're good? Okay. All right, I was going to say, I'm like, prettier works, I promise. Later, QQ. Catch you on the flippity flop. See you later, Vern. Thanks for hanging out. Okay. But let's copy this now. Let's try again. This time it should work because we know we're with a valid JSON. And here we go. Just check this out. What how crazy that is. Model item, model, here we go. And yes, nope, this side. This side is what I want. Okay. Now in order to use this though, I'm going to need pydantic. So let's clear this. Poetry, add pydantic. Pydantic is going to give us the strong types and the modeling that we can do for data, which is the whole point of this, by the way. All right, dudes, I just had to jump out of here for a couple hours. Thanks for the valuable stuff, Carlos. You're very welcome, DKillerCheck. Very, very welcome indeed. You have yourself a wonderful day, and I'll probably see you at Autobots. Very nice, very nice. So poop.json, you did its job. Thank you, poop.json. Okay, so now let's make a, do we have a models directory? We do not. Let's throw it in here. Right here, we do have one. Simple classifier, we don't need. Delete, yep. Delete, yep. Perfect, let's add a new file in here. And let's call this one, let's call this, epics, really, right? Epics.py. Paste all this in. And now we need to adjust this a little bit. I don't need this. I don't need that. Stats, class stats base model. Here you go. The model item. This is the actual epic itself. So epic model. There's that. And then this is epic models. And this is going to be a list of models. Epic model. Okay. So there we go. So we already had the response, right? So what I wanted to do was get that response, turn it into a model so we can do some schema type checking. It's almost like a contract. Like the response has to be in this shape, right? With these types and everything. And Pydantic is going to make sure that's the case. But now we know exactly what these things look like, which is going to make our stuff look even better, right? So, excuse me. Let's say from models, and I guess I would have to say from shortcut.models, import the epic model. Import the epic model, or epic models. And once we have this JSON back, now we can say epics is equal to epic models, and we have to do an unpacking here, just like that. And let's just assert epics real quick. Let's see if this works. Looks like my check mark is up here still. Debug. Let's see if it works now. Test result not found for murmur. I don't know what to tell you. Response.json, epic models. I feel like this is in the wrong place, and that's why. Discover. Oh, they got rid of it. Okay. I can't run that then. Let's just do a reload window. Reload away. Will it put the debugger thing in the right place this time? Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. It's not doing it. It's not doing it. Shortcut has an init file. Shortcut tests has one. Why you fail, friend? Why are you not seeing it? Configure test. I don't have a way to discover tests anymore. They got rid of that functionality for me. Great. But now it's not seeing this as a test. Let's do it through the command line then, because I don't know what's going on. -k list of epics. Let's find out what's going on. File or directory not found, test. It's called tests. Okay. Let's look for the word test here. WTF. Don't care about get ignored. Don't care about poetry.lock. Poop.json. Aha. PyProject has stuff. PyProject has some stuff. PyTest any. Test path. PyTest any has stuff in it. That is what's happening. PyTest any, what have you done? Whoops. PyTest any. PyTest path. Aha. The culprit. The culprit. Okay, so now it should work. Cool. We got rid of the... Oh man, I probably cached this then. So inside of shortcuts models, I got rid of the init file, but it probably needs it now. Since I started with it, it probably cached it. F my life. Otherwise, I wouldn't need this. But let's try again. Okay, cannot import name epic models from shortcut.models. So let's check it out. Inside of here, it was models.epics. Oh, that's because I'm in the, I didn't import it correctly. Right here, .epics. There we go. That's what we needed. I said save and format. There we go. So I forgot to go into my epics.py file. That would make sense. Good catch, test. Good catch. And wonderful. Wonderful. Shortcut models, epics, epic models, argument after star star must be a mapping, not a list. That is fair. That's actually very fair. That's fair. That is fair. So let's do this. Let's go to epics. I don't care about this then. I only care about epic models. I only care about the epic itself. Stats should be in here somewhere. Yep. Stats, epic. I don't care about that. So, okay. That should be it. Go back to our test. And let's say for every epic inside of this, we're going to do the unpacking. So right here, epic. And for epic and data epics, close pilot for epic and data. But you were close. Excellently close. Okay. And here we got our thing back. Yay. Debug the test. Let's check it out. And it worked. Huzzah. It worked. So epics now has a bunch of stuff in here, but each one is now an epic object, which means we get IntelliSense, we get our type checking, we get the schema validation. All of that gets included just because we're using Pydantic. So perfect. All that in one line, it's doing that contract schema, type checking, all that good stuff in the one line. And here, if I were to say like epics dot, we get list of things, right? Because we're in a list. But if we get any one of these out and then do a dot, come on, Copilot, don't take over. Do a dot. Oh, it's taking over. No, Copilot. Okay, let me turn Copilot off real quick. Copilot, how dare you hide my autocomplete? Dot. Here's all the stuff that exists in our epic, right? So we no longer have to go here and be like, what's inside of this thing? We know it's inside of this thing. And so now we can do the dot and get all this information for what we can do. Like, for example, the deadline. We now know what it is. Deadline completed as a Boolean, completed at, and on we go with the stuff. So all taken care of. I don't have to memorize all that stuff. Yay. Sudo says, dude, I have managed to generate a license content from GitHub's API using hooks into the license automatically. Something simple but cool. Very nice, very nice. From GitHub's API using the hooks. Yeah, I mean that's pretty sweet. That way, like if you don't create the, and I guess like the way that I usually create repositories is I do it through GitHub's UI. But yeah, if you were to do it the other way around, I think your approach would be really nice, because then you can, instead of like in the UI, you have an option to click the license you want. But if you're not doing it through that, then if you're not doing it through there and you're doing it through like the command line, then your solution is the way to go for sure. Most definitely. Most definitely. So the user has 10 options for the licenses. Cookie cutter, I mean. Okay, so now that we're here and it's working for us, let me just run it. There we go. And it's working for us. Now we can grab this and move it into an actual like file for Epic specifically, right? So inside of this, let's make a folder. Let's call like API folder. And this will be, we have one for epics.py. And I should probably do def get epics. And it has nothing besides this. Whoops. Let me close this. Cool beans. So you select from them and it auto-generates the license content inside license. Yeah. That's sweet. And you get that from the command line then, right? Because you're saying like cookie cutter, you pass, or you paste in the URL and then it gives you options. So then you're able to select. Man, I like it, dude. That's pretty slick. That's pretty slick. GitHub should take advantage of that, like for real. GitHub should have like, so that way you can say like in the command line, say gh space, like template or cookie cutter or something like that, you know, because then they could take advantage of that. So you get this kind of the same UI feel, but from your terminal. I think that's pretty sweet. That is pretty sweet. And then they should pay you for it. That way you get money for all your troubles. Okay, and here we just got to bring this stuff in. So everything we had before, right? So import requests, that will make that yellow one go away. We need from settings, import our URL and also the headers. Oh, I turned off Copilot. I'm sorry, Copilot. I was waiting for your suggestion so I could just auto-complete it. Now say headers. And then from, no, you were right. You were right. Shortcut dot, no, now you're not right anymore. There we go. There we go. Epics. Okay. But we don't want to assert epics. We want to return epics. And I mean, technically I could just return right here, right? Just return that. Bada bing, bada boom. And this would be a list of epic. Let's go. No code actions. All right. You thanks a lot. VS Code. From typing import list. Whew. All right, there we go. My goodness. 5 head. And the Nate. Whew. Well, we have this big old stats object. And I'm curious with how they're doing it, because right now they're grabbing all of the epic output details and getting the lead cycle times from this. So right here, here's the epic stats, right? So epic stats, they have average cycle time, average lead time with the name when they're putting it in there. Oh, okay. Okay. So let's go back to the test real quick. And let's debug. I'm curious. Let's see what this information looks like. Let's get these metrics. So epics, let's grab like the first one. There's going to be something called stats here at the bottom. Stats. And stats has number of points total, number of points that are done, number of points started, unstarted, related documents, stories done, stories started, stories total, stories unestimated, stories unstarted. So you have all that. Stories without projects, updated at, all of that. So you got a lot of good stuff in here. And they're getting average cycle time, average lead time. Yeah, epic stats, average cycle time, average lead time. I didn't see that. Let's try again. There is not that. I don't see that. App URL, archived, completed at, deadline, external, group ID, labels. I don't see average. So let's go to stats. Let's see if it's in here. Number of points. There's no average in here either. Last story updated. Yeah. So they're showing stuff in their API here, or in this example code that they have, where they have inside of stats, right? So they're going inside of stats. Inside of stats, they have an average cycle time and average lead time, but I don't see that here. I don't see that here, so we would have to, it's too bad they got rid of it. I mean, that looked really helpful. Let's look at their API then. Why would they get rid of that, right? Maybe they moved it. They must have moved it. Right? That makes more sense to me if they moved it. So epic workflow, entity templates, epics, create an epic, get an epic, update, delete, list them, create comments, get comments, unlink, production from epic, files, groups, iterations, labels, linked files, member, milestones, projects, repository, search, stories, resources, branch, create epic. No, this isn't what I want. What if we search for lead time? Right here, epic stats. A group of calculated values for this epic. And here they have it. Average cycle time, average lead time, last story update. Wait a second. This is what I'm dealing with, though. This is the epic stats. A group of calculated values for this epic. They don't have these two, though. I have everything else. I have everything else that they're showing here. All of these things I have. I don't have these two, though. But they have it in their documentation. Okay. Yep. Okay. Epic Slim represents the same resource as an epic, but is more lightweight, including all epic fields except the comments array. The description string can be optionally included. Use the getEpic endpoint to fetch an unabridged payload. Okay. So we're getting Epic Slim back. And this is saying that it's not as, I mean, it's slim, right? It's not everything inside of it. So if we use the getEpic endpoint, now that I know what the ID is for it, it was like 33 or something. Epic public ID, the unique ID of the epic. Let's give this one a try. Let's give this one a try then. Okay. So thank you for your service. Test get epic stats. I want the average, what was it? The average lead time or cycle time. And I also want the average lead time. Those two matter to me quite a bit, so I want those two. Whoops. Response is equal to request .get URL plus paste this in. Right, and then headers is equal to headers. You got it. You got it. And then this one, I'm just going to put 33. I think that was one that I saw. Just for now. We can always replace that later. Just to make sure I don't forget. Let's say this is the epic ID is equal to 33. Just so it's not a magic number. Whoops. Epic ID. Okay, and then assert response. Woo. Okay, let's see if we can get this information from it. I meant to debug. We got the 200 back response. We get a bunch of stuff from it, but it looks like it's working, so great. So next up, we need data is equal to response.json. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. What time is it? 4:30. Holy moly. I've been going for a while. It's time for me to bounce a rooskies, y'all. Let me just finish this one, and then I'm going to have to probably hop off here soon. Squid Fry, hello, hello. You're coming near the very end of the stream, man. But that's okay, that's okay. We covered a whole bunch. So if you're subbed, you can check out the video. We did quite a bit today. The data. Let's look at the data. App URL, description, archive, started, entity type, labels, mentions, project IDs, stories without projects. Lots and lots of stuff in here. Nothing about lead time or cycle time, though. But we have stats. So let's look at the stats here now. Let's see if this has more information. And it doesn't. It doesn't. What the heck? Number of stories done. Number of points done. Well, F. Okay. Okay. I might have to create these things myself. In their documentation, they say that I should have these two things, right? I should have the lead time. Story slim. Yeah, they're saying I should have it. Average lead time and average cycle time. But when I'm actually working with their endpoint, I don't get those things. I don't get those things. But okay, at least we're at the point now where we're programmatically working with their endpoints, and we do have some numbers here where we can perform some calculations, right? So either we can perform the calculations ourselves, or we can just grab the data that we want from these different objects like epics, projects, stories. I'd probably want it by people as well. So grab these JSON objects with these wonderful pieces of data, throw them into InfluxDB, and then put something like Grafana on top of that, and we can do the queries and everything with Grafana, right? So I don't want to go too far into doing our own computations because it might be that us doing things with Grafana is a very powerful visualization tool. Grafana might be able to create these things for us. So I'm thinking that what I really need to do is in my exploration of this API, find the data points that I'm wanting and how I'm going to, like, what data do I need in order to create these things, and then grab those endpoints, get InfluxDB going, and I'll work with my cloud engineer to get that up in our infrastructure, send the data there, and then put Grafana on top of that. So that might be a better way. But for something like this average lead time and average cycle time, I'm probably going to have to find out how to calculate this myself. So, I mean, we'll see. Right? And right here, they're saying the average lead time in seconds of completed stories in this epic, right? So that's one metric. Another one would be the average cycle time of completed stories in this epic. So how can we grab that information and tie it to the epic level? So right now, like if we were to look at not stats, let's look at this again. This is not the stats anymore, but this will have an ID itself, right? So ID, where you at, friend? Where are you? App URL description started. These are the project IDs. So this will probably be helpful, right? Because we can get an epic for every epic. We can grab the projects within it. Within those projects, they will have stories attached to them. It's a lot of API calls, but I mean, they're not GraphQL, so we can't just ask for the specific data we want. We have to work with everything. Completed at override, started at, completed at, name, completed, state, plan start date, request by ID, milestone ID if I want to tie it to a milestone, group ID. Here's the ID. So this has the ID of 33, and so we could tie. We have that mapping already, right? So we have epic 33s already tied to these projects. These projects are tied to these stories. We can grab the information from the stories, tie it back to, and back to, right? So if we don't have lead cycle time and average cycle time, we might have to generate that ourselves. And then when we send this to InfluxDB, include those two values as well. That might be one way of doing it, but all right. All right, y'all. Well, I think we got it. So I'm going to grab this. Like I said, I'll finish this and then I gotta hop off. But we're inside of our epics here. Def get epic by ID. This is an integer. It'll return a single epic. And this is what, because we're doing TDD, Copilot looks like a genius. Because anytime we're doing TDD, Copilot's very smart because it's generating this based off of our test that we wrote. And so it's like, I think this is what you need. And sure enough, that looks like exactly what we need. It even knows that this has to be a string, and so even though I said it's an integer, it's like, okay, I'm gonna append it to this, but I'm gonna stringify it real quick, and then all this good stuff, right? So there it is. That should be done. Let's go back here, and let's get back our stuff. So there we go. Smart Copilot, right? Because we're doing all the work. TDD is making it look very, very smart. So let's say the epic is equal to, and nice. And let's do from shortcut.api.epics import epics. Let's do it that way. Epics.getEpic by ID. And we were doing 33. I don't remember which one this is, but that's fine. It's the one that we're using. Epic ID. I mean, and then yeah, we do something dumb like that for now. That's fine. I need these two. Mother of pearl. This one was get a list of epics. Oh, I didn't change this one either. Whoops. Epics is equal to epics dot get list of epics. How do you not know what this is? Oh. Because I called it the same thing. Variables, naming matters. Assert, the list of epics should be greater than something. I guess I could just assert on this. Never mind, I was doing that. But once I realized I only cared that there's at least one, then assert that there is something in the list of epics. These are super shallow right now just because we're not really... These tests only care that we can do it. We don't really care about what's inside of it currently, if that makes sense. So that's why these look so shallow. But... well, I need these two, so we're going to have to calculate that eventually. But yes, I don't need these anymore. I'll leave them for now, because I might need them later. This one specifically. But otherwise, I think we're done. I think we are done for the day, peoples. We did it. We did it. It's a bummer I don't have these, though. It's a bummer. That's okay. So... let me go back here. Boom. Now that we explored it, we know how to work with it. PyClinic couldn't help us. Ah, man. PyClinic couldn't help us. And that makes me really sad. Pseudomates, you're very welcome. Thank you for hanging out and joining as well. I learned a whole bunch about streaming today, like the raids. I had no idea that was a thing. So very cool, and I'll make sure. Nate would be proud of you. Thank you. Thank you, Nate, especially. We need like a shirt for that, just like Nate. If we were to make a shirt, we have to think of a quote that Nate would say. We went through all 5 of these things. So, I mean, we went through a whole bunch today, and today was very eventful. Coming up, I said Grafana plus MongoDB or InfluxDB. My platform team, when I told them about what I was trying to do, they're like, could you just do InfluxDB because we don't want to work with Mongo? And I was like, okay. So just know that it'll be InfluxDB, not Mongo. I didn't really have a preference, and so that's why I was okay with them saying that. So Grafana plus InfluxDB, and I'm going to use that for a whole bunch. It's going to be pretty great. Of course, general Python programming. This is still something we need to do. Oh, I need to add another one, so I don't forget. Let's do, it's PyClinic, support, Swagger 2.0, and Open API 2 to work with Shortcut API. Yes, we'll do that one too. We'll have to go into PyClinic again, but this time add support for these two. Because if I had support for these two, I wouldn't be having to make these functions. They would have already been created, And that would have been so much better, but it's okay. But that might be it for the next stream. Maybe for the next one, we'll add support for those two. And then instead of me writing all of these functions, let PyClinic auto-generate all of that, and then we'll just take advantage of that and keep going. So that might be my priority for things. Because unfortunately, like in this project I'm working on right now for Shortcut, like I can't show you guys everything, right? Like today was fine because it was very generic, but eventually I'm going to be dealing with a lot of like what's happening in our project, our day-to-day stuff, and I can't share that, right? So that's why I'm thinking of let's go to PyClinic and do that because that will keep things generic. I have to be vague in the things I can show. So just know that, even though it'd be cool to go like show you this from end to end, right? Beginning of this project to then it being visualized and everything, that would look really cool. There's going to be some parts I can't share. So I will share as much as I possibly can. I promise you that. But it might have to be we do PyClinic next time and kind of intertwine these two. Makes sense. No problemo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it. We had our first raid today, and apparently I didn't really know what to do. I just kept doing what I normally did. But the boomer to zoomer, like Pseudomaze so eloquently put it previously, let's get to zoomer and let's do this thing. Because I mean, it would be nice, right? I'm not doing this for like the money or fame or anything. It's more so I just want to be able to like. It feels interesting on Twitch because normally I'll go to companies. Companies will hire me for thousands of dollars just to do presentations and workshops. And I go to conferences and I keynote and speak at these things. I run my own community for software testing and quality. And like I do all this stuff. And one of the biggest reasons why I started the stream was because there was a lot of people that I get questions every day. I get so many questions every day. I mean, as you can see, right? Like I try to grab some of them and put them on stream. I get tons of questions every single day, and I don't want to context switch, because imagine if every request I got on Twitter and LinkedIn and Slack and like everywhere, I wouldn't get anything done. And so I was like, how could I like bucket everyone's things and then do it and have it recorded? That way I didn't have to like meet with them, but I didn't ignore them. And so that's where the stream idea came alive. So my hope would be that as we do this, like people keep asking me their questions, they keep asking for requests and stuff, and then I complete them exactly what we're doing right now. That was the reason for the stream, and I get to learn stuff myself as well. I'm learning a whole bunch as I do this. Share my experiences. You see me struggle and stuff, and hopefully that is also validating. Like, oh, people struggle even though they've been doing this for years. Yes. Yes, of course we do. So just know that was the purpose for all of this. But there will be times when I'm a little selfish and I want to like learn something on my own or do like a POC on something. So kind of like today at the very end, like this is very selfishly for me and something I'm doing for work, and I'm using my stream time to do it. So Nate never struggles. Well, we can't all be perfect Nates. There's only one person in the world who doesn't struggle, and this is Nate. We should. I had this one. There's this tweet before I hop off. There's this tweet where someone said, "Has anyone ever written a CI pipeline and have it work on the first try?" And I was like, me. And I just put me like. Because it's true. I've had times where I've written a pipeline and it didn't fail. It worked the first time around. But it wasn't like a difficult one. I was like, yeah, I've done that before. And oh my gosh, people responded to it like, okay, wow. And they're like, it's okay to fail. I'm like, oh, I know it's okay to fail. Their question was, have you created a CI pipeline on the first try and it worked? And I just said yes. Apparently people did not like that answer. And so that was my Nate moment where I was like, yeah, I've done that. And yeah, yep. Yep. Anyway, I learned very quickly you can't say things like, oh, this is the best way to do it. Because if you say that, like, you get destroyed. So you were nated. Or I nated others because I just said I didn't struggle with that. You were nated. Get nated. Yeah, make that a verb now. Hey, just nate that code real quick. Anyway. All right, everybody. Thanks again for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Tomorrow is Friday. Yes, I believe I am. I will be here tomorrow. Now, I do want, just real quick, just so y'all know, and this is recorded, I'm thinking of doing a new schedule. So instead of streaming every single weekday at 12 Mountain Standard Time, I'm thinking of doing something like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just because that would give me Tuesday and Friday to actually like find highlights in here, edit them, post them on YouTube, stuff like that, right? I think that would be helpful. And so right now, me streaming every single day, I mean, clearly it's time to stream, and so I don't have time to do all that kind of stuff. So I think if I do it 3 times a week instead, that will open up some time so I can also put things in YouTube. So there's that. And then also know that next week I am on a vacation, so I won't be streaming. I mean, I might. We'll find out. I might be, but my wife is going to Honduras to visit her family. I'll be here, so I'm going to have my kids with me the whole time. And so that will make it very hard to stream. So just know that as well. And with that, I bid thee all adieu.